Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, where we're going to be talking about how to eliminate scope gaps and automate submittal logs with AutoSpecs. My name is Nick Raimondo. I'll be supporting our speaker today, Russell Voigt. So with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to you, Russell. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Nick. My name is Russell. I'm a technical solutions exec in Autodesk, and I started my industry experience as a design build project manager, both in the GC space and the engineering and construction space. So many of those roles I had as a design build PM, part estimator, part field supervision, a lot of that time I logged hundreds and hundreds of hours reviewing specification data manually. And for a lot of different reasons, we were sifting through that data. So I'm excited to show you today AutoSpecs, the modernized way of approaching an efficient way to find that data and eliminate scope gaps and automate other manual processes that have long been in place for specifications are now taking it to a new level. Now, part of what I appreciate about AutoSpecs is this. 96% of all data in construction and engineering goes unused. And generally speaking, this could be anything from a Google Street View photo of an existing condition that no one else thought to look at, or it could be one single keyword buried in a 2,000-page spec book that escalates into some kind of event in the form of risk that sometimes you get away with. 9 out of 10 times it works out, maybe 99 out of 100. But the other 1% of the time, you might be seeing issues that could potentially create headline situations. Could be massive schedule delays, huge change order arguments. It could be in the form of safety incidents, even fatalities. I can think back one project, we had a precast structural erection on the schedule a few weeks ahead, and I noticed we had missed a submittal that was for a PE stamped pre-engineered erection plan that's meant to aid the process and make sure that unfinished structure, as it's built, is safe and sound. It's all the pieces go together in a certain order. All the joints and connections are going through a process that makes that safe. And we proceeded without that pre-engineered erection submittal from the PE stamped process. And luckily, this was not my project, but this incident happened back in 2013 on a university project in Florida where something did happen. And there was a deficient inspection on a joint in a precast structure, just like what I was looking at, and it did not work out that time. So it can be pretty uncomfortable to really think about this information, how it can be high stakes. It's not just submittal logs we're talking about. We're talking about potential outcomes that these risks can pose. The right information needs to get into the right hands and efficiently. It seems like we all have less and less time to actually find the information. We spend hours and hours, even several days, combing through specs, and that's the challenge. So much critical information here in front of us, but so little time. Now, specs, I hated how archaic they felt. Probably the biggest change to specifications was 20 years ago when they went from the 16 CSI divisions and they upped it to 50 just to accommodate the complexity of modernized buildings. So since then, that was after like the internet boom started to take hold on the industry. And now we're seeing the AI boom. And that's where AutoSpecs comes in. AutoSpecs uses powerful machine learning algorithms to automate a lot of that manual fishing for information to actually get used. So you can spend your time not paging through, but using your critical thinking skills to decide what's going to matter, where the risk is, and then get ahead of it. So here comes AutoSpecs. I'm excited to show you what we have, and we'll hold questions until the end here. Now, once you jump into AutoSpecs, you'll upload a CSI spec book PDF. It could just be one massive PDF. And then usually in 5 to 10 minutes, it's giving you all that data on a very organized dashboard that is categorized like you see here. And the learning algorithm, they know synonyms. I know in this industry, I used to switch companies. I'd have to learn new acronyms, learn new language, even from design team to design team. All the specs they might call attic stock extra material. or maintenance material instead. AutoSpecs knows that these mean the same thing, and they bucket them accordingly. Now, if you're the first person to put eyes on the specs, you're probably in a design build situation as the designer or a design build contractor. The best time to use this is as early as possible. That way you can decide what changes need to be made before those specifications become official and before they start affecting bids and then potentially affecting change orders and cost events too. So if I'm looking at this, first of all, I can't tell you how many times I saw lead submittals on a project that was not lead. So obviously things get copy pasted from old designs accidentally because a lot of designers are pressed for time too. This is where you can find those and get them out of there during your 60% DD issue, whatever design milestone you're at. Attic stock, that's a good one too. I can't tell you how many times my PM asked me to say, hey, Russell, can you review the specs? Find out what we're looking for attic stock wise to give to the owner. They were asking me about that in the owner's meeting. I would carve out, 3-4 hours to find those manually. This just found it in 5 minutes, and I can go here, follow this link to my inventory, and this is filtered to those 7 attic stock items already. So I can export this out to Excel and even share this with the owner and ask them, maybe during design phase again, is this what you expect to get at turnover? Or do you need more or less of any particular materials? Like custom carpet, you're never going to buy again. You probably need some extra of that. So that kind of thing can be consulted way ahead of time. If I'm an estimator, I'm looking for things that might cost me money, that might bust my budget in one single keyword, like I said in that spec. Mockups are a good culprit there. So are tests and inspections that you might have to hire third parties on. Mockups, these can cost 10, 15K depending on what it is. So as an estimator, even a designer too, if I see that we have 17 mockups here, maybe I can value engineer a few of these out of here. But I want to check these out, see what they are, no matter which hat I'm wearing, and prepare accordingly. Or ask a question in RFI, hey, is this really needed? Because this is going to be an extra 10K on my bid. So it's going to filter to those mockups, and it'll identify exactly which items are requesting a mockup at the moment. Masonry mockups, for example, I know there's a veneer facade mockup in here. Masons tend to have a very high hourly rate, so they're not going to give out free mockups either. Let me just refresh 1 second here. So here's that mockup list. And again, I could vet this out with my design team on what's really necessary. We don't want to waste time and money on extra mockups. Or again, if you're a hard bid GC, you don't want to miss one of these either that you're going to get stuck with. So here I can see the details of those very, very quickly and easy without worrying about paging through. And if you're anything like me as an estimator, you had a lot of deadlines and a lot of projects that lined up in the same week, unfortunately. So having time to find these was something that you're really pressed to do efficiently as an estimator. Now those mockups too, we can jump in and actually see the scope creep. If we increase our mockups from one design issue to another, I can actually see what changed between one version and another. If I go over here to Smart Register, this is my full log of all the information. Beyond submittals, like I said, we're including mockups here, attic stock, inspections, even more. And right here is compare versions. So if you're in design phases right now, you have different iterations going through as your design takes shape, or maybe you're getting addendums in construction. I mean, you want to account for if the summary is accurate with what the actual specification changed, you can vet that out on both sides, design build. So I'll click compare versions here, and now I'm comparing version 1 to version 2. I could see, let's pick on mockups again. We went from 12 mockups, added 5 more to 17. And maybe that's in the narrative, maybe it's not. Maybe it was a copy paste. The type of thing though is you want to get in front of this before it becomes official or before it becomes some kind of disagreement that we all love to have. So right here, I'll open this up. This is going to show me different filters. I can highlight what's been added, deleted, or even edited. If they change a word in there, I can see exactly what that was. And then if the design team or the owner needs a report on what's changed or deficient, what has to be sharpened up, again, you could export this onto a report and easily share this information. Something that would have taken a long time. Overlays don't work in this situation. All the words shift on the pages. Overlay is not going to work. This actually doesn't need to be a line on each page. It's rescanning, rereading all the data and reassessing very accurately. Now, if you want to drill down into Smart Register to different trades, for example, that you might be vetting out or designing, if we pick on concrete here, I can go right to Division 3 items, click apply. And these are all my action items in the Division 3 concrete section. So here's concrete sealer. Now, one thing I will admit, we can't completely rely on technology right now. We still need experienced pros using these tools. There's context, there's translation that only experienced humans can actually decide on. So right here, this is kind of our job security here as professionals. I can put eyes on the page on exactly where AutoSpecs found this and further vet this out and make a better decision. So here's where it found this submittal procedure for the product data on the concrete sealer. Now, another thing this AI engine is going to do is add suggestions to your specs. So the algorithms in here know exactly which items are common to which CSI numbers. So for example, when I click Get Suggestions right here, this will initiate Construction IQ and run the suggestions on what's possibly missing. So in design, this can host some suggestions in the design process to sharpen up some gaps, or it could be a means to create an RFI as a contractor during construction. So in this example here, the Construction IQ icon is this little globe. So this is suggested by Construction IQ and saying that there's a warranty missing from the concrete sealer. So if this sealer fails in a year or two, and they don't have a warranty in the owner's as-built turnover, then they're out of luck. This warranty is not in there. They're not obligated to share that. So yes, I'm probably going to add that as a suggestion to get added to the specs or shed some light on it in the next coordination meeting. Let's pick on paint. So if I go back to Smart Register, paint was a situation where I commonly saw a lot of fluff, or the product data and samples got expanded on really fast because there's probably 20, 30 colors in there to review that all have to get individually tracked and approved. So I'm going to switch this to Division 9, and we're going to dive into finishes. We could even jump right to paint here if I want to. I'll search paint. There's a lot of fine-tuned buttons in here that allow you to really sift through all this information. There's 1,400 items in here that it found. So yes, it's TMI, but you have to decide as the experienced pro what matters, what's fluff, and what needs more attention, what needs sharpened up. So here's the finishes on paint items. Here's samples. Now, if there were two items, this used to happen a lot. We'd see a product data requirement and then a product certification requirement. Usually it's in the same document when you get the submittal. You don't want to track those individually. So what you can do is select those two similar items that are probably going to come in one PDF from the sub and actually merge those with this actions button here. I can click merge and those will come together in one item. All right. So again, we're reducing the amount of items being tracked that are adding distraction to our subs that have to decide what's important. You're front end loading those decisions here easily. And then same thing, paint colors, like I said, samples, we're going to see about 20 drawdowns here. And some are going to get approved, some will not. So if I know there's going to be 20 colors, I can choose that samples button and then click copy, say multiple copies, and then enter 20 copies. And then I'll have 20 separate drawdowns to follow. If the architect wants to track those all separately, you don't want to reject the whole package if a couple colors got approved but one didn't. So this is allowing me to easily duplicate 20 submittal trackers for those drawdowns. So there's lots and lots of buttons here that make a lot of what was manual process to do this now very, very automated, very fast. Now, if I go back to the Smart Register, like I said, on the bottom left here, we have 1,400 items. And all this scrubbing process can be done, like I said, in early design phases, during pre-con, and then obviously during the submittal phase. So once you've done all the scrubbing in here, you've vetted out the context of where these details are coming from. Over here in the top right-hand corner, you can always bail out a filter to an Excel template and share that to whatever trade, whatever party needs that pointed piece of information. Like I showed you that attic stock list. Something that used to take 3-4 hours to find. Couple minutes filtered in here, exported to Excel, and it's already shared to the owner in time for the next meeting so they can give feedback. Over here in Publish, this goes right to the Build Submittals tool. You could also break out specification sections into separate PDFs. I know a lot of tradespeople only like working in their section, so that's a good way to split the PDF if you got one single massive PDF file to work with. There's also several reports in here. If you want to bail these out into more formal PDFs, these buttons are also here. But bottom line here, there's lots and lots of time spent sifting through thousands of pages. When I started my career, they were in paper books, volume 1 through 4, and I can't tell you how much time that took to find and then actually get them in to software or paperless. So a lot of these situations often are being skipped because we don't have time as designers, as estimators, as assistant project managers and PEs. But now we're automating this process and finding the information to actually be used beyond just the design phase or beyond the fine print. If you get an addendum after all that design build process, you won the job successfully, you didn't miss the snake in the wood pile, everything's covered, and then you get a new addendum and the spec book's reissued. All you have to do is click upload right here, addendum, and then this will rescan all your data. You can use that compare function again to vet out the summary narrative and then decide if there's any out of scope items that you have to talk about with your design team. But hopefully you did that already when the spec draft was created. Now that concludes the majority of what I had planned for today. Nick, was there any questions from the audience that we could probably open up the floor to?
Yes. Thanks, Russell. A couple questions here that came in. The first one, there's a question on, I see Ariel raise their hand. Can you put your question in the Q&A pane, please? And then we can address it. Thank you very much. While Ariel's putting her question in, we've got a couple more. So first one, Russell, can AutoSpecs track submittal status?
So can Autodesk track submittal status? AutoSpecs is front-loading the process to decide which submittals are needed, but the actual collaborative process on statuses and reviews is done in Autodesk Build. So that's what I showed for a moment here in Publish. This pushes to Autodesk Build Submittals tool, and that's where the status will live and the back and forth between partners will be for like stamping and marking up. That whole process is over there in Autodesk Build. And that also lives right next door to AutoSpecs over here.
Thank you. The next question we got was, can you mark up the specification pages as you review the data?
So can you mark up the specs as you review the data? I'm assuming that was over here in this view. So I'll flash this up one more second. So this is showing us where we found the data. As far as markup, you can change which piece of information it's capturing with just a simple click and drag. But the actual markup process that we see and recommend for things like QAing a document, adding feedback and pins and stuff, that can be done in the Files tool. So the Files tool is under AutoSpecs as well. And you'll see when I go to Files here, I have a specifications folder where I showed you the two version comparison of two different books. So when I go to, here it is, specs, these are the two spec versions that I just showed you. And it's in the single PDF, so not broken out. But when I jump in here, you can make your feedback notes and publish them or even assign tasks to people to fix certain things or address things in your specs. You see the markup toolbar on the right-hand side over there. And that also has a mobile app that you can mark this up too. So if you're walking the space, you can do the same thing from that files tool too.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll give it another, I know we have a few more minutes here. We'll give it another minute or so to let anybody get some last minute questions in. And if not, we'll wrap early. So I'll give everybody, 30 more seconds to put any final questions in the Q&A pane for Russell. All right. It doesn't look like there's any more questions in the chat. So thank you, Russell, for addressing the couple that we got. If there are other follow-up questions, please send us an email and let us know. We'll be happy to get you answers based on a follow-up to this content. As a quick FYI, we will be hosting another webinar this coming Thursday where we're going to be talking about how to enable data-driven decision-making through construction insights. So on behalf of Russell and myself, we'd like to thank you for attending this session today. We know your time is valuable, and we really appreciate you investing some of that time with us. We look forward to seeing you again on the next webinar. Thank you, everyone, and take care.